I'm Scotty Sandstrom, Executive Director of the Bayfield County Economic Development Corporation. Glad that you're all here, and if you want to even move up, there's plenty of seats. If not, enjoy yourselves. We are very thankful to have a good group of speakers tonight, and want to just go through the agenda for you quickly. After we get cranking here, we're going to have John Burrell of Northern State Bank. He's going to come up and talk about some commercial lending expectations and what the different banking terms are and philosophies and products. So we'll have him come up. And then I'm going to say a few words about BCEDC briefly after that, and then we'll bring the Ashland Area Development Corporation, Kate Taylor, she'll be here tonight, talk about their programs, and Ken Pearson from Northwest Regional Planning Commission will then come up and speak about what he does. Then we'll have Patricia Petty from the SBA, Small Business Administration, come up and give us good insight on how they can support and help businesses. We'll then have Mark Dennis from the Wisconsin Procurement Institute come up, and he'll talk about government contracting. For you that have businesses and you want to make that connection, that'll be very good information. Then we have the Indian Head why am I having a brain freeze?
Community Action Agency.
The Indian Head Community Action Agency. They'll be here, and who is speaking for them?
Andrew is the one.
Andrew, okay. Sorry I had a brain freeze, Andrew, but there you go. So very glad that he's here tonight from Ladysmith. Ken used to work with that organization. They have some very good programs, and glad to hear what you're going to offer tonight too. So after that, we'll have some questions and answers, and now we want to say thanks to our sponsors tonight, and let's not go that quickly. Again, Ashland Area Development and BCDC, WPI, Indian Community Action Agency, the SBA, and Northern State Bank. And then we're going to thank the folks from Velo Cafe down in Cable. And why is that doing that to me? For providing the coffee and goodies, and for Justin Rito, his business is K-Look Film. He's doing the videoing tonight. He's done this for ever since we started Business on Stage in 2012, and he's very faithful, and glad to have him here tonight. So I think we'll get cranking. Mr. John Burrell, he's the president of Northern State Bank, and I know that you'll really enjoy what he'll want to share tonight. Thanks, John.
Thank you. Thanks, Scotty. From what I understand, your term is done here at the end of the year, and you'll be missed. And thanks for working with our bank and in the area for the betterment of all, I would say, economically. My task tonight, from what I can gather from my sheet here, is that I was to talk to you about some of the basics of commercial financing and what bank expectations are when small business owners come to us for funding. And I guess what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a few general comments, and then I'm going to get into some specifics of what our expectations are when a person comes to see us, what things that we ask for, what things that we need in order to make our decisions. And so when I'm presented with a task like this, one of the first things that I think of is, what can I say to help? You know, and the first thing that comes to my mind when I'm sitting at my desk and an applicant comes to me is, how can I reach across the desk and put myself in my borrower's shoes? And what I would ask from folks coming to see me is doing the same thing. Thinking about what the lender is thinking about as well. And I would say one of the first questions that a person has to ask is, in this competitive environment, where do you go for commercial financing? Where do you go for small business financing? It seems like it's getting more and more competitive. And not that I'm going to state some sort of an advertisement for community banks, but our niche is, you know, we are local. We have been here a while, we live in our community, we understand our community, we understand the economy of the area. This is the only area where we operate. Some folks like that. Other folks would rather deal online with questionnaires online and the impersonal type of financing option. We feel our strength, again, is knowing our local economy and knowing what our niche is. I would also like to say, we feel that we do better when we all do better. I guess I'm taking a quotation from, I don't know if any of you know who that quotation is from, but it's from Paul Wellstone, the former legislator from Minnesota. But I would say, stepping across the desk, that all lenders make different decisions. You know, as much as borrowers and lenders would like to think that the lending decision is objective, it's not. There's a lot of objective material. There's facts and figures. But there's also an idea. There's also a concept, a business concept. There's the light bulb thing that goes on. And we're not always going to agree with what's going to be successful. And so, you know, when you're thinking about the lending decision, you can think of a spectrum. You can think of easy decisions on both ends, on the approval decision and on the turn-down decision. But there's a lot of area in between. There's a lot of gray area. And that's what makes it tough. Because some lenders will make an approval decision, come to an approval decision. Others will turn down the loan applicant. And as a community banker, we often live with seeing the people that we lend money to, but we also see the people walking down the street that we don't lend money to. And some of the most rewarding parts of our job, again, reaching across the desk, is to help someone succeed. Some of the most difficult decisions that we make, that we have to live with, are dealing in our community with lending decisions that have not gone well. And what do I mean by that? I mean lending decisions where we have lent money into a situation that doesn't turn out well. Or when we miss. When we turn someone down and they go to option B and they get approved, that's a good situation if they succeed. And there are a few of those in the community that I have to live with as well, where I have turned someone down, they've gone somewhere else, and they've been very successful. We're only human. You know, and again, as much as you like to think that the lending decision is black and white, approve, disapprove, the majority of the decisions that we have to deal with are the in-between. So, what does that mean for you? As a small business coming to a financial institution or going online for a loan. What it means is you have to be thick-skinned at times. You have to be able to go back to the well, so to speak. You have to be, if at first you don't succeed, try again. Because we don't have a monopoly on right decisions. There a lot of times is no right and wrong. There is no true approve, disapprove. There's a lot of area in between. Community bankers, we strive for success. When others succeed, we succeed. Oftentimes when others fail, we have to see those people on the street. We have to deal with that as well. So another suggestion is when you are going to any financial institution or online, what sort of suggestion or what sort of hint can I give to you as far as attitude is concerned? You have to sell yourself. You have to sell your concept. You have to sell your business idea. You have to sell your light bulb. If you're not confident, it's hard for the person across the desk from you to be confident. So as much as, again, it's facts, figures, numbers, it's also confidence and selling ability. To be able to convince the person across the desk from you that you will have a successful concept, that you have a successful business. So, after those comments, what else can I say to help? And I would say, be organized. Do your homework. Another quote that we talk about at our bank is the business of business is business. Milton Friedman. You know, and what does that mean? That means that, you know, we're making decisions based on risk and return. And it's a business decision. So you have to be organized, you have to be able to sell your idea, you have to have confidence, and you have to have the proper paperwork and the proper things along with you, documentation. You will need a cover letter, executive summary, just kind of a table of contents of your request. You will need a business profile, what your business is about. Another thing that a lot of folks forget, and it's so very important with small business lending, is a resume and management experience. So very important. It's so very important in our decision-making process. What sort of a background do you have that lends to the success of your light bulb idea, that lends to your business concept? Of course, we need to know what your loan request is, how much money you need, how your business will use the money, how you will repay the loan, and what will you do if your business is unable to repay the loan. Those are ideas that should be in the back of your mind when you're going in to meet with a lender. You should also have an idea, because you're going to be asked about it, is a collateral. What are you going to offer for collateral? You should have a personal financial statement, a listing of your assets, your individual assets, and your liabilities, the money that you owe. In most of the cases with small business financing, we will ask for a personal guarantee. You know, there are times when we don't. require personal guarantees, but very, very seldom. We get asked that question. And again, reaching across the desk, when someone asks me, why do I have to personally guarantee this transaction? What would be the first thought that comes to the mind of the lender? How convinced and how confident are you in your business, in your small business? Another question that will be asked is, what's your investment into this business? Is there a down payment? You know, the slang word for that is, will you have some sort of something into the game? You know, you will be asking for money from the financial institution. What's your risk in return in this as well? You will also be asked for business projections. If you're buying a business, we will ask for the historic financial statements from that business. We will gauge whether or not those numbers show the ability to repay the debt. And if they're somewhat marginal, and you provide us with projections that are substantially different than the historic information, we will ask, what are you going to do better? What are you going to do to make this business successful that maybe a predecessor wasn't able to do? So, again, some hints, be prepared, step across the desk, and put yourself in the lender's shoes. The lender, most good lenders will be doing the same. As much as you may think otherwise at times, our job is to make good loans. That's the business that we do. And if we don't, we wouldn't be in business very long. So put yourself in the lender's shoes, be prepared, have all of your documents in order, and I would welcome any specific questions or any questions that anyone would have afterwards. I think I was pretty much close to the 20-minute. Thank you.
Thanks, John. Right on. Very, very good perspective. Before I introduce Kate of Ashenary Development, I'm going to note our organization and how we interface with the businesses just for a couple minutes. The Bayfield County Economic Development Corporation, as we have requests or we connect with businesses or with entrepreneurs that want to start a business, we listen to what their needs are, where they're going. We do have a business plan template that's on our website, and so we work through and talk to them about where they're going, and then as they would have financing needs, as most folks do, then we suggest that they do connect, with local lenders, and so we make those referrals, and then also remind them that as they speak to their lender, they may find that the lender will look at their plan, and maybe they're close to lending what they need, but there may be a gap that needs to still be fulfilled. So that's a time when we suggest that the lender can partner with Northwest Regional Planning Commission that has revolving loan funds to meet that gap. And I was on one of Northwest Regional Planning Commission's lending boards, approval boards for 4 years in the 10 northwestern counties, and we had a variety of plans that came through, and it was interesting to look at how we could move ahead and approve those. And I've, since Ken has come on, and even with his predecessor as well, as Ken has come on, we've really worked together well to make those connections. And so I've appreciated the ability to do that. The reason that I mention that I make that connection to Northwest Regional Planning is Bayfield County Economic Development Corporation does not manage revolving loan funds. So we have the ability to make that connection with that organization in conjunction with local lenders. So I want to mention that on the back table there's a flyer from the BCDC with my card there. It does share our services, and make sure you pick one of those up. And so that's what I just wanted to quickly share. So now we're going to have Kate Taylor from the Ashland Area Development Corporation come up and share their services and how they support business in this area.
Hi, I am Kate Taylor from Ashland Area Development Corporation, as Scotty said. Following up with John now, what he's gone over with the banking industry, we do offer loans also through Ashland Area Development, and oftentimes when I have small business owners that are coming to me to talk about that, oftentimes they're kind of a few steps behind where they would hopefully be when they go to a bank. And so oftentimes I do help them perhaps get up to that level of organization and the paperwork and all of the details that they would have to go to the bank or to talk to me about what they're looking for. So at Ashland Area Development, I work as the business services specialist, and so in conjunction with the loans, which I'll talk about that we do have available, we offer other business services. So people starting from their original light bulb moment right at the basic beginning of where they are with their business idea, and then on up to established business owners in the area. We teach business 101 classes to new entrepreneurs, and we provide a business plan workbook, and then also assistance in actually going through the workbook, and when they write it, I can help them with editing or working on ideas for that. And we do have another class series coming up, which I have information out on the front table for veteran entrepreneurs throughout Bayfield and Ashland County. So we can talk a little bit more about that too. But as far as the lending goes that we have at Ashland Area Development, we have 4 revolving loan funds, which, as Scotty said, are utilized most often as gap financing. So we are working in conjunction with one of the local lenders and kind of filling in where they might be falling short. The borrower might be falling a little short on their investment portion, and they need a little help to bring up the full amount of money that they need for their project, and so we can come in and help out with that. We do have some that come to us, and what they're borrowing from us is the majority of what they need for a particular project, if they're purchasing equipment and such, but we do have real estate loans that we're involved with in larger projects like that. So what we have for our revolving loan funds, there's one that the Chamber of Commerce offers, and we administrate these loans through AADC. So the Chamber has one, and that is available to businesses that are located along Main Street in Ashland. AADC is located in the Enterprise Center, which is on the corner of Vaughan and 3rd Street West. And the Enterprise Center, our tenants within the building actually have their own option for a revolving loan fund that is only offered to those tenants. So we have a number of office spaces and light manufacturing in the building, so people can come in and rent space there, and then they're eligible to apply for those loans. And then we also have another one, the Ashland Area Economic Development and Ashland Area Development Corporation has 2 separate loans. So those ones, one of them maxes out at $35,000 lending, and the other one is $50,000 max for those loans. And they do have, because they are for economic development, one of them does have an employer creation requirement. And so if you come to us and are looking to borrow money, we are wondering then and looking at how is that growing your business, and is that opening up job positions within the community. So that's one aspect we look at. And there are also matching fund requirements. So that could be bank money or your own money that you're infusing into the business, but we do look at matching funds for these loans also. And when I'm processing applications for people, I'm looking for a lot of the same information that John covered, a lot of the same type of documents and your personal financial statement, and all of those same type of documents that the banks are looking for, we are also looking for. And so you will, but at the same time when you come to us, a lot of people don't have that ready yet. So what I help them with is guiding them towards templates and different samples that they can look at as they prepare their paperwork to come back and actually apply, or to go on to a bank and apply there. So if you're not at all ready, that's totally okay. You can still come and talk to us and we'll help you through that process a little bit to try to encourage, especially to take everything step by step, because when you look at that whole stack of paperwork and application or starting your business plan, it can be a little overwhelming, a little intimidating. So if you just take it one page at a time, one step at a time, we can really build on that and get to the point where you're ready to look further down the road for your business. So those are the loans we have right now. And again, we have our veterans program, so I left these up on the table in the entry area. So if anyone here does have a business or businesses in the area that they would want to display one of these to support the veterans, it is free to apply, free to take the classes. For veterans, there will be 10 to 12 entrepreneurial classes. They're going to be starting November 29th. We have our introductory one. Applications are due by the 27th this month. So if you have any friends or family or yourselves or veterans, please feel free to contact me. The business card's backed by the cookies, so there's more information there also. And if you want to grab the packet, I have more information on the program is in this packet up on the table. Also, application is on the back page. We have it on our website, it's on Facebook, so you can look there. It's ashlandareadevelopment.com. And then I also brought along, when we do the packet I do for New Business 101 classes. So when we have these classes, for the most part I get people with fresh ideas, new ideas, they haven't quite started yet, but I do also get established business owners coming in. So we prepared this packet that I hand out. And so one of the items we have, this is the business plan workbook. And so this just works through all the different aspects that a bank would be looking for, that we're looking for if you're looking to borrow money, and then also it just works as a really great guide. So as you're going through your business, you can go back to this, see where you came from, what you want to tweak, where you're going, projections, all the different details of management. So it's a very useful tool. So we include that. Everybody who comes to class gets that. And then we have, on the other side of the folder, I just created a helpful page of local links, chambers of commerce, our website, some blog posts that are very helpful for entrepreneurs and small business owners. We have that information included, and then I also have in these packets, which I can email anyone if you need them, we have different templates for different financial paperwork, which some of this can also be found on our website, PDFs on there you can download. So you can do worksheets here on startup cost, your average monthly overhead expenses, 12-month cash flow, all that type of thing. So we give you templates to look at and use when you want to apply for a loan. We don't require that you use the exact template that we provided, so we've already created these documents on your own. You don't have to like reformulate them and fit them into our version. So whatever you have would work well too. But for now then, again, we have our 4 revolving loan funds, the chamber for our business, or our building specifically, and then the other 2 are available to anyone within Ashland County. So those ones are a little more broad. Madeline Island included, of course, so we do have loans out there to people. And there were a few other revolving loan funds that were available, but right now they're being kind of closed out by the federal government, so those ones I can't really talk about right now. Normally I would be. Those were our larger pools of money, so that's kind of going away, unfortunately. But we're here to help out with anyone with any questions they have, and if we don't know the answers, then we kind of serve as a contact point to help put you in touch with the people who can help or can provide the services that you're looking for. I don't think I have anything further to talk about right now. Ken, do you have any direction you would want me to take with?
What's a couple of fun success stories you've had over the last year or 2, year and a half?
Well, we've helped out with one of the local restaurants was able to come into town and do really well. We worked with that one alongside a bank, which is what we often do. We work with the lenders and work together on that and make it happen. So that's been kind of fun. And I've only been here for a year, so I think most of the big success stories predate me. I haven't been involved in as many things, but some of the fun things for me personally are the feedback I get after the new business classes, when people come back and they actually are beginning stages and they're launching things and they actually have things going on that they were able to come to the classes and find information, and the people that come and they network and they find new connections in the community and they can build off of each other, and then I get feedback from them after the class. Those are the ones where you really can tell like something you did right in that moment translated into helping them out. It's a little more concrete than some of the abstract help and assistance that is given at times. So to me that's really fun, is doing the classes and seeing how people connect. So I will be here for questions afterwards if anyone has any questions. I brought a couple extra folders from the class if anyone wants to grab one of them too. I brought a couple, and again, you can grab these too if you want. But otherwise that's all I have for now.
Now we're going to bring up the driving force of this evening. Ken Gerson, he's the lone program manager for Northwest Regional Planning Commission, and I've enjoyed getting to know Ken and working with him and connecting him as needed with businesses, and he's done a very good job for Northwest Regional, and glad to have him here and having him wanting to put this together for us tonight. So, Ken.
Thank you, Scotty. And I want to thank, all the speakers and sponsors as well for coming out tonight. When we put these programs on, we're never quite sure what to expect or who to expect to show up. But what I can tell you is that the Ashland Bayfield, the Chequamegon Bay, is a resource-rich area for small business. We have, Scotty Sandstrom's led the way up here for many years. He made Bayfield County a telecommuter optimized county. Is that correct?
Yes, telecommuter forward.
Telecommuter forward. They're the first county in the state and maybe nation to receive that designation. So what that means is our small business and business in general is moving into a broadband state. So Bayfield County's positioned themselves ahead of a lot of other counties and regions in the nation of being a telecommuter forward county. So they have more broadband footprint and access, and they're actually continuing to grow that footprint and routes each and every day. And a lot of that came from Norvado's investment in the area. However, there's a lot of local telecommunication companies as well that have helped build out the fiber infrastructure, and even some of our national telephone providers are now getting on board with seeing the impact both economically and profit-wise for them to provide full-blown broadband, not just kind of your copper DSL broadband. So that's a huge investment for the Chequamegon Bays to have that advantage, because not only is this a great place to visit and tour, it's also a great place to live, and you can actually work in the cities or work in Duluth or work in Detroit, Michigan from your home in Bayfield and Ashland County. So that's just a huge designation, and especially with recruiting new people, recruiting individuals up here. As businesses, some of your main focuses, obviously, a lot of you are smaller businesses, which are great. You're the backbone and the blood, the force of the economy. However, you also are in the great position of recruiting. And if people come to your shop, come to your store, your resort, and see how much fun you're having, how much you enjoy living here, if they're talking to you as a resource at a bank, as a banker, Chamber of Commerce provider, and they're seeing how much fun you're having here, even as tourists, that will encourage them to move to the area. And I think in the last year I've met 3 or 4 people who have specifically moved to this region because they've been vacationing here time and time and time again, and they realize now is the time to move to northern Wisconsin. So use our resources. The things I like about these summits is not only it gets the small business owners in the room, it also gets the resources in the room and talking. And at Northwest Regional Planning, and even when I worked at Indian Head and prior to that, my biggest thing was partnerships and resource collaboration. Because if the resources aren't talking and communicating the programs they have, we're not doing our jobs. Because ultimately, it's about the small business owners, it's about the families and communities that we represent and help to make those connections, and then you all take the resources and run with them. So at Northwest Regional Planning, our main job is to be an economic incubator for the 10-county region. We have the 4 coastal counties from Douglas over to Iron, the 4 supportive counties, so to speak, or foundational counties, I don't know, forest counties, from Burnett over to Price, and then we have Taylor and Rusk, and that rounds out our 10 counties. We have an area of 10,000 square miles. So Andrew can attest to this too, works at Indian Head. We put on a lot of driving, and we wear our vehicles out very quickly. But we do it because we love the area, we love the resources, we love the people, and we're resource rich not only from public resources such as Northwest Regional Planning, Indian Head, Bayfield County EDC, Ashland Area Development Corporation, state entities, federal entities that you'll hear from later. We also have a lot of personal and private investment. That's why we're able to invite people such as Northern State Bank, Bremer Bank, Chippewa Valley Bank, Associated Bank. Whenever you see a lot of banks, you know that that area actually is very rich in resources. They make business decisions and they only go to places where there's a population and a work effort and a knowledge that they know that they're going to make a good investment in that community. So from the Wells Fargos to the NBCs, National Banks of Commerce's, to the community banks and the regional banks that you have in this area, they make the investment in the community to be there. And one way that you, as a small business owner, the more resources you can learn and find out, that'll give you a competitive advantage. Because we do have some small business owners here tonight, and you are doing something that your competition isn't. And that's sitting down on a Tuesday night in what feels like the middle of winter. We're not even in the hunting season yet. And you're learning. You're here to know what's out there. You're here to interface with the resources. I wish more people would take advantage of that. But by you being here tonight, you are gaining an advantage over your competition. I always tell people when I teach small business classes, the minute you stop learning is the minute you start shrinking as a small business. You always have to be willing to learn and invest that little extra bit to make it happen. A little bit about Northwest Regional Planning. We are the Regional Planning Commission that we're not really an organization, we're not an agency, we're we're a federal statute mandated organization. So trying to figure out what our tax exempt status is next to impossible. But we are mandated by the federal government to exist, and we take that very seriously because we're helping the economy and the area grow. Some personal touches. The Iron River Enterprise Center is one of our business organizations. They help local businesses incubate, accelerate, and grow. So White Winter Winery is located there. D3 Digital Data Destruction used to be located there. They moved out recently. Anco Windows, I believe, is located there, and a couple others. So these are local examples of how regional planning is able to help the small business community. We have 4 or 5 other incubation enterprise centers located throughout northwest Wisconsin. Grantsburg, Siren, Phillips, Iron River, and Spooner. So we have locations all throughout the region that are made to help small businesses get started, grow, develop, and then eventually we want to kick you out into your own space because you've grown. We also obviously do economic studies that help business owners make decisions. Every year we come out with an updated community economic development survey that you can find on our website. It's called the CEDS. We use a lot of acronyms, but in it, the CEDS provides demographic and economic information about the area. So when you're putting together your business plan, when you're putting together a marketing plan, when you're thinking, is this the time to grow as a business, kind of hold still and keep working on our strengths? Is it a time we shrink back as a business? The CEDS is a great resource for you to go and look at to make those determinations. As far as my loan programs, A little bit about myself before I jump into that. I grew up in northern Wisconsin. We're not quite in the city of Ashland proper, so I can say that I'm from Maple, Wisconsin. There's a little bit of a rivalry between our high schools. It's going to take a one-year hiatus and then pick back up again in 2020 for football. But I do know that we won quite a few times, and I was in high school there at Maple Northwestern. But I'm able to say that because we're kind of in Bayfield County. I grew up, my father was a small business owner. He was a logger. He's still operating to this day. He just turned 60. He uses a chainsaw and a pole skidder, and that's been his business operation the entire time. He had a partner for a while, and he and his partner decided that they'd make more money on their own, so they dissolved the partnership. But he's been a single owner-operator of his logging company, even through the recession. When all the other logging operations were up and getting loans for $200,000 machines and working 24/7, and then the paper industry dried up, and then for a while the milling industry dried up, he was able to plug along when a lot of the big guys went under. And I think I was meant to be a business consultant from a young age, because I think at the age of 9 or 10, I asked my dad, why aren't you advertising the classifieds in the paper? And he just looked at me and said, I'm busy enough as it is right now. If I advertised in the paper, it would be kind of a waste of money because I wouldn't be able to do any more than I already have. And he's been able to hold the storms, ride the tide, and he's still going to this day. Just a chainsaw and a pole skidder. And I learned a lot from that. I learned that I'm not a small business owner. I like vacations. I like my health insurance. I like retirement. All those reasons that you all are way braver and way more courageous than I could ever be for starting our own small business. So I do understand, even though I'm not a small business owner, or I come from a small business background, probably one of the toughest small business backgrounds you can, and I've seen it succeed. So certainly that helps from a consulting standpoint, which my background actually is in business consulting. That I'm kind of I guess you could say a recovering business consultant who's a loan fund manager. So it gives a good opportunity for me to think kind of both ways. How can we help the business owner? Who can we connect them with the best resources? Am I the best resource, or is there a better resource out there for them? And we really tie it back to being that gap financer. Our goal, a lot like Kate's goal in Ashland Area Development Corp, is to make good deals better. So if we have a bankable deal that a bank's looking at, but they just need that extra emphasis, extra spread on the portfolio, we love to partner with them. That's what our bread and butter is. We can do loans up to $150,000, but our average loan size right now is about $50,000. We have a microloan fund through the SBA at Regional Planning that does loans from $5,000 to $20,000. We could go higher with that, but A, I'm almost spent out on that fund, and B, we like to do those smaller loans. With those SBA loans, they also receive free technical assistance, not only from pre-loan, but when the loan closes, all the way through when they decide to pay the loan back, and then beyond that. So you have technical assistance, counseling into perpetuity with our SBA microloans. We have Northwest Business Development Corporation, the board that Scotty served on for 4 years as a loan committee member. Those loans can go from $20,000 up to $150,000. But again, the average loan in that portfolio is about $50,000. So we're not talking about huge loans. A lot of our loans will amortize out after 5 to 10 years. We can talk a little bit technical here. Typically, we take on loans that either a bank isn't quite willing to take on, or in the case of manufacturing, it's too specialized. So if you're trying to buy a CNC router, the bank may look at that and say, there's just really no collateral value. I can't sell that on the street. So then the manufacturer may come to us and say, hey, can you help us? And then we look at that project. But our main goal is to work with the banks. We can do some niche financing, some direct lending, but we try to stay away from that as much as possible. Our greatest resource is when we get a bank, a community bank, a national bank, a regional bank, a credit union that comes to us and says, hey, we have a deal, we just don't have enough, can you help us out? We're always going to ask that the owner puts in at least 5 to 10% of their own money, And we can count some of the equity as well that they put into the project, building up to that point. The bank will typically cover 65 to 80% of the loan fund, and then we'll come in for the last 15 to 18%, because we still want that little bit of the owner equity contribution. So we're talking pretty small loans. We'll either match the bank's amortization. So in loan speak, you have a term, which is how far the bank or credit union is willing to stretch out the loan before they review it. And then the amortization is the life of the loan. So oftentimes on a piece of real estate, a bank will go out 15 to 20 years, but they might term it at 2 to 3 years and then try to adjust interest rates after that. We'll either match the bank, or we'll do maybe on real estate a 5-year term and a 15-year amortization. On a piece of equipment, we might go out 10 years, where a bank or credit union may go out 5 to 7. So we offer a little more flexibility to help with your cash flow. Again, we're not here to compete with banks. We're here to help make the banks stronger, or credit unions stronger. We want to help spread their portfolio risk by taking on some of that risk ourselves. We do take a riskier position in terms of positioning for collateral or even projects. If a bank credit union does a turn down, we've had entrepreneurs who've been shot down 5-6 times, and then they come to us. They're like, I really know I can make this deal work. And we look down, we crunch numbers, we talk to them. We do a lot of character-based lending. So it may not always make sense on paper, but there's something about that proprietor that says, yes, that person knows what it takes to get the job done. And we may not give them the full amount, but we'll give them some, enough to get started. And then they may come back and ask for more after that when we establish a record. But we've started a lot of businesses off a very small loan amount, and we watch them thrive. Our default rate as an overall portfolio is between 10 and 12%. So even though we're taking on risky loans, our history doesn't show that. So I have the Small Business Administration Loan Fund, the Microloan Fund with the Regional Planning Commission. We have Northwest Business Development Corporation, which has Economic Development Administration loans, United States Department of Agriculture loans. Yes, USDA Agriculture does get into the commercial lending business as well for rural development. And then we have emergency management. So when the floods came through 2 years ago in 2016, and again this last spring, we would have been able to help out with some of those repairs to either the dwellings or equipment and stuff like that. Anywhere with the insurance would have covered, we would have been able to do gap financing on that. And then we have Northwest Wisconsin Regional Economic Development Fund. When you get into the sector, when you get into the industry of public finance, there is no short names for anything. It's all acronyms and really long. So Northwest Wisconsin Regional Economic Development Fund, or NURED, is the reason why I'm here today. We try to work with our partners as much as we can, and we try to respect our partners' territories and boundaries. Kate's here representing Ashland Area Development Corporation. If there's ever an opportunity, as it presents itself, we'd love to partner with AADC. However, as Scotty alluded to earlier, Bayfield County Economic Development Corporation doesn't have a revolving loan fund, because in 2006, Bayfield County made a decision to give up some of its loan funding to a greater conglomerate, which is NURED, so then we can use that leveraged power to lend across the region. And I think out of that move, we've probably done 10 loans or so in the last 10 years in Bayfield County, and I think Scotty and I over the last year and a half, I've only been in the position for a year and a half, but Scotty's kept me running. I think we've done 2 or 3 loans now, and a couple more prospects along the way. So we leverage our resources as much as possible. I know Kate and I have bounced a few projects back and forth that they've either been able to help or I've been able to help. So NURED is specific to specific counties. NWBDC covers the whole 10-county area, and we can certainly do the matching funds and help a project that Kate may have to do a one-to-one match through those funding sources. And then we have a Wisconsin Business Innovation Corporation, which is a statewide fund that offers all the same opportunities as the other 3 organizations. So what we're looking for is, there's 3 main things we're looking for. First of all is we're making sure that there's some sort of matching funds. We're not a direct lender, we're here to work with the banks, credit unions, other funding sources. So we're looking for some sort of match, either a one-to-one match. So say you have a $100,000 project and a bank's willing to put up $50,000 or lending source is willing to put up $50,000, we'd come in and match that almost. So we might come in for, a bank does 50, we might come in for 40, and then you might have to come up with an additional 10. Or we come up with 45 and you have to come up with $5,000 cash. So match is the first requirement. Collateral is the second requirement. We're not going to give equity loans. We don't do that. That's just not a policy. So you have to have some sort of collateral. We can get really creative. We have a business up in Bayfield that if they were ever to go under, we'd be a proud owner of sea vessels. We've had to go through the Department of, or the Coast Guard to get the titles to collateralize stuff. So we get creative. We almost took a horse as collateral, a high-performance racehorse as collateral one time. We'll take vehicles, we'll take home, we don't take homes. We'll accept vehicles, we'll accept homes, we'll accept land, additional collateral that you can come up with that isn't specifically tied to the project, but you can pledge. It's never our goal to take someone's house. We work with you through the process in case of default and foreclosure, but it's that added leverage to help get your skin in the game, as John alluded to earlier. So matching funds, collateral, and then cash flow. We make good deals better. No one can make a bad deal good. And certainly we get our fair share of ideas, and sometimes an idea is a good idea. Most often an idea is one that needs to be refined and molded and bent and twisted and either thrown out or kept. And Kate's job, my job, Andrew's job is to make sure that we're able to build the good ideas into good projects. But you can never take a bad idea and make it into a good project. That's just throwing good money after bad, and that's not holding our money accountable to taxpayers, and we'd be doing a disservice to the budding entrepreneur. We never try to set anyone up for failure. So we look for match, collateral, and cash flow. If you meet those three requirements, then there's some ancillaries like job creation, retention, or saving that we also take into consideration. But pretty much those three are what we look for. So yeah, we're definitely here as a gap financer. We're here to work with your local communities. We're here to work with you. The more resources we can tie in together. Recently, Scotty brought me a project that I wasn't able to do, but I found I wasn't able to do it because I found a better fit for that individual through New Market Tax Credits, which is a whole different program, but you're able to get a 7-year loan of interest only. So that helps you build your equity into your business over 7 years, and the idea behind that is after 7 years it rolls into traditional financing. So there's my job, I feel, is number one is resource collaborator and connector, and then we look at the project. So until you've hit all the resources, I'm going to make you go talk to all the resources, and then we can sit down and look at if your project's feasible. Chances are, if I'm chasing you through the resources, your project's feasible. You just got to cross the T's and dot the I's. So again, we're here to take questions afterwards, but we're going to move on to the other great resources. So the way how this whole thing's set up is you've heard from the funders to start with, and now you're going to hear from the resources that can help you get to the point of funding. So thank you.
Thank you, Ken. Next is Patricia Petty with the Small Business Association Administration, the SBA. Thanks, Patricia.
So, one of the things that we really wanted to point out for this year, for fiscal year 19, is we do have some loan fee reductions that are available on our loans. For those in rural or hub zoned areas of the state, which are using the SBA product, of $150,000 or less, the borrower fee is 0.6667% of the guaranteed amount. And at that $150,000, you'd be looking at an 85% guarantee, so that percentage would be on that 85%. And to help induce lenders to make those smaller loans, they will not be paying any fees on that particular product. The rural and the normal borrower fees that are at the lower rate normally would be about 2% of that 85%, so you are saving quite a bit. For anybody who's a veteran or a veteran spouse, member of the National Guard, etc., using our SB Express program, which is a 50% guarantee for the lenders, there are no fees for the veteran borrower. And we only guarantee 50% in that particular product. The reason being that the lender makes the credit decision, we don't, and they have a little bit more latitude where they are using their own documentation, etc. Let's see. But as far as the loan fee reductions in rural counties, here's a listing of all of the counties in the state that are considered rural for this particular program. There's actually 52 up there, 58 of the 72 counties are considered rural for the program. We also have what are called hub zones that we also have fee reductions in. And most of the rural counties are considered hub zones, but it is all linked to census information. So if you're not sure if the address of where you want to locate your business is in a hub zone, all you have to do is go to our sba.gov/hub zone, and then you enter in your address, and it'll tell you whether you're in a qualified census tract or not. Our primary loan program, which we call 7A, the maximum loan amount is up to $5 million. We guarantee, the guarantees are 85% on anything 150 or less, 75% on anything over 150,000. We have 5 to 10 year maturities if you're looking at working capital, machine and equipment, up to 25 years for real estate construction. Let's see. On the express loans, as I said, there were 50% guarantee. That's up to $350,000. This one does include lines of credit, however. As I said, the lender makes the decision. Any guarantee fees, again, are waived for veterans. If anybody is interested in international trade or export financing, we do have programs for that as well. I won't get into the nitty-gritty on these, but I will make this presentation available for Ken to be able to send out to everybody so you have the information. Or if you know somebody who wants to, especially in this area, if you're trying to export to Canada, etc. We do have a lot of companies actually that have been utilizing this quite a bit lately. We also have what is called Community Advantage. Community Advantage is those lenders are non-traditional lenders. They're not your bank or your credit union. They could be a micro lender like Northwest Regional Planning. Could be a certified development corporation. Could be a community-based mission-focused CDFI, which is a community development financial institution. We do have several community advantage lenders in the state. They have a maximum loan size of $250,000. Again, same guarantee rate, 85% for up to 150 and 75% for over that. Approval time on this particular program right now is anywhere from 5 to 10 days. It's only a 2-page application, where the rest of them are at least 4, if not more. The lender has to maintain 60% of the portfolio in underserved markets to be able to continue in this program, which is a good thing. And it's a 3-year pilot program, but it was extended for another 2 years to 2020. They are not adding any more community advantage lenders at this time. There's some new regulations that they're working out before they take any new applications, but we are lucky to have some in the state. And here's the listing of the ones we have. The Wisconsin Women's Business Initiative Corporation. They have offices in Madison, Milwaukee, Kenosha, Racine, and they just added a new one in Appleton, but they do cover the entire state. Because they do have representatives up in different areas around the state, and I think the closest one here is Wausau. But even though they don't have an official office, they do have representatives. Also the Milwaukee Economic Development Corporation, they pretty much stay in the Milwaukee area. Legacy Redevelopment, again in the Milwaukee area. WBD Advantage is another statewide program. They're located out of Oshkosh, but they do have representatives again across the state. And we have a new one, LISC, that has started doing business in Wisconsin. They do come from an eastern state, and I can't remember which one, but they have been very, very interested in getting into the rural areas and also into the urban areas where there is a lot of underserved markets in those territories. Microloans, you heard a little bit about that from Ken. The maximum amount on those are $50,000. The interest rate is definitely negotiated between you and what we call the microlenders intermediaries. There is no guarantee, so there's no fees on your part. These loans can only go up to 6 years, and they can be for purchasing equipment, fixtures, working capital, leasehold improvements, also increased receivables. A lot of the micro lenders, though, too, also have additional funds that they pull from. So if your project is more than $50,000, you can probably work something out. These are the micro lenders that are in the state and their territories. Again, the ones that would serve this area would be Impact 7, they're statewide. The Wisconsin Women's Business Initiative Corporation, again, statewide. And Northwest Regional Planning Commission. Just to give you an idea of what kind of microlending is being done here in Wisconsin. As you can see, every year we've made more loans. Kind of gone back and forth with the dollar amount, but we have definitely made some headway on startups. So, again, the SBA 7A product in our 504 loan program, which are certified development corporations that come in. And those are strictly asset funding vehicles. Let's see, we're still working on some of the 2018 numbers, I know. So for 2017, the combination of those two particular programs, which includes all of the programs that I've mentioned, we've made 1,503 loans in the guaranteed program for $650.6 million here in Wisconsin. That's 554 startup companies for $208 million. And as you can see, loans under $150,000, we've really been promoting that. And last year, or in 2017, we made 740 in that dollar range for $57.7 million. For 2018, so far, 1,427 loans, and that would have been through September 30th for $626 million. So even though we aren't a direct lender, we have to have a lender that you use or a non-traditional lender, our programs are really making a real impact on the state of Wisconsin. So we really encourage lenders and our non-traditional lenders to use the program as much as possible. We also have a program called Lender Match. If you're not comfortable going to your lender and talking about a loan, or you don't know what lender to go to, or you don't have a particular relationship with a lender at the moment and you're trying to feel things out, if you go to the SBA.gov site and type in lender match, all you have to do is answer about 10 questions. Once you hit the submit button, it goes out to 800 different lenders across the country. If any of those lenders are interested in working with you, they will contact you within 48 hours. It's very easy to answer the questions, and we have seen a lot of success with the program. We have a lot of resource partners that we work with. We provide financing to help provide one-on-one counseling. We have such a small staff between our two offices in Madison and Milwaukee, we can't possibly do it all. So we have several resource partners that we help fund to provide free one-on-one counseling. We have what are called SCORE chapters. They call themselves the Counselors to America's Small Businesses. We've got 7 chapters throughout the state, but within those 7 chapters, they have up to 25 locations that they work out of. We have women's business centers in the state with 8 different locations. We also have small business development centers on the university campuses, which they've kind of expanded a little bit. They've got about 14 different locations plus a couple of specialty centers in the state. We also just had a new Veterans Business Outreach Center that we were able to add to Wisconsin. They cover Wisconsin, Illinois, and it's either Minnesota or Michigan, I don't remember which one. They just opened, one of the women's business centers was able to get the contract. So it used to be located in Illinois, now we've got it, so we're going to make as much use of it as possible. We also have a lot of online training that is free. Just go to sba.gov, there's a little heading that says learning, click on that, and you will find a host of several different types of classes, how to do a business plan. If you need help with marketing, need help with financial information. Like I said, there's just a whole host. I know Mark is going to come up and talk about government contracting. There's also a bunch of stuff in government contracting as well. And as far as the SCORE chapters, like I said, we have several in the state. And I'm sorry, this needs to be updated. There's actually 241 volunteers now in our 7 chapters. So we are, even though they're only in 7 different locations, they will do counseling online with you. They will do meet you at a place that you would like to meet rather than at one of their offices. They're very, very accommodating. These are individuals that have been in business or are still in business, but they're at a point where they're ready to give back to the community. So they have a wealth of knowledge. And again, the SBDC locations across the state, as I mentioned, most of them are on the 4-year campuses. There's a few that are outside of that. We have the Wisconsin Innovation Service Center. I think that's out of Whitewater, I believe. And then the Business Answer Line, that's statewide. The state decided that they were doing such a good job of answering questions that they took the Help Biz line that the state administered and gave it to the Wisconsin Business Answer Line to handle. These are the listings of the women's business centers in the state. Again, Wisconsin Women's Business Initiative Corporation is the only one that is statewide. And we'll skip the disaster stuff unless you really want to know about it. We also have every year during National Small Business Week, we do our SBA awards, honoring small businesses across the state. If you know anybody that should be nominated, please contact, at the very bottom here, Rachel Apple at sba.gov. She's the one that's coordinating that. All of these different categories and small business champion categories are the ones that we give out awards every year. So I'd encourage you to do that if you know anybody. And as far as staying in touch with SBA, I did hand out our resource guide. In this resource guide, you also have information on all of the different resources that I mentioned in the presentation. But also on page 5, you will find all of our staff and their various functions. So if there's something you're looking for, feel free to contact us, either call them directly or email them. We will get back to you as soon as we can. And I'm kind of feeling a little bit like Ken. I like to look at us as a good resource partner. If there's something that we can't help you with, 9 times out of 10, one of us is going to know who you can work with. So please feel free to use this as a resource for anything. Even though there are times when we're out traveling, we still do check our messages, etc. We now have finally gotten issued government phones, so they have to keep track of us everywhere. So please contact us whenever you need anything, and we will definitely try and help you. And as far as the SBA contacts, we've got my information. My district director here at Ness, he's out of Milwaukee. And again, Shira is our public affairs specialist, and she is running the awards program. Also, one of the other things that I gave you is a loan chart on both sides. This actually puts all of our loan programs side by side, so you can kind of look and see what kind of, what the dollar amount is for each of the programs, what kind of use of proceeds you can use the program for, what the maturity rate is, what the possible interest rate is, if there's a guarantee fee, what that formula is going to be for it. And also on the back is our office information on the very bottom. So, and if you need any more of those or any more of the resource guides, I do have some up on the table out front, as well as my business card. I do handle north central to northwest Wisconsin, so I'm kind of out and about quite a bit. But again, if you need any information, I know I was just supposed to try and touch base on this stuff and not get into depth in any of these, so if there's any further questions on any of the programs, please let me know. Thank you.
Thank you, Patty. Wow, since 1953, you're born when I was born, so it's nothing to do with anything other than that I thought it was kind of neat. So, thanks for you being such a great resource. And speaking of resources, we have Mark Dennis from the Wisconsin Procurement Institute that will talk to you about how you can be connected to government contracting.
Well, good evening, everyone. My name is Mark Dennis. I'm a government contract specialist with Wisconsin Procurement Institute. But a title I like better is counselor. I'm a counselor. My background is in journalism. That's what I went to school for. And then, right after I got that degree, I went into U.S. Navy submarines. Didn't do any journal. Well, we had a ship's newspaper, but after that, I got out of the Navy and went into quality control for the Case Construction Company based in Racine, Wisconsin, and in Tomahawk, Wisconsin. Most recently, though, Case had me do some federal contracting. There was was a project to overhaul some Army forklifts and skid steers down at Fort McCoy. And I was working down in Illinois doing quality control and parts, and after 13 years of that, I said, you know, I want to go to Fort McCoy. I want to see what that's about. So I went up there and helped with that. I did their federal contract management. And then for the last 3 years, I was a consultant for people who were in federal contracting, including Logistics Health and Case Dealer, as a matter of fact. And then I was hired by Wisconsin Procurement Institute this past May. And you know, when I moved up to Fort McCoy around 2004, I was asked by Case to be our federal contract manager. And I didn't know that much about this profession. You know, there's very few schools that teach it. There are some public administration degrees that cover it, but not all of them. So like a lot of contract managers, I had to learn the job on the job. And in this state, very fortunately, Wisconsin Procurement was there to assist me. So you could say I'm a postgraduate student of WPI. Now, our staff are located all around the state. Our major offices are the Gold Stars, and the Blue Stars are partner agencies that we work with and that frequently co-sponsor events like what we're having tonight. So although my office is in Camp Douglas near Volk Field, I work with clients throughout western and northern Wisconsin. And we do hope to work in the Lake Superior region more often this coming year. So please, ask me to come up here and counsel you, because it means I get to travel to Ashland and Bayfield and make the short drive from Camp Douglas. The short drive from here to there. So please do. I don't mind coming up here at all. One of the best training tools that I use to learn how to do government business is this website. This is the WPI website. And I'll tell you later on how you can get this presentation for free, so you don't have to write stuff down. But in all of our materials, including the brochures and my business cards and everything that I've got out front, you'll find our website. We kept it pretty short. This is a great resource by itself. We have an event calendar. It's right on the first page. It tells you what's coming up. And we always make sure there's something going on for teaching and training. We have webinars twice a week. We call them acquisition hours. And we do these for 1 hour at lunchtime on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. So you can watch from, you can have lunch at your desk maybe, watch a webinar for an hour and hear one of us speaking and go through a presentation. And I've attended dozens of these over the years. Each one's on a different contracting topic, and they are very useful if you're trying to learn how to do business with the federal government from scratch. So whether you're new to it or you've been doing government business for years, we can help you get to the next level. And remember, we are both state and federally sponsored, which means all of our services are free of charge to you as a tax-paying Wisconsin business. So let's look at this mysterious government market and crack the code. I had a journalism professor that used to say, there are 3 things you must remember. He said that over and over, and I've had 5 different classes with him over the years. But here's our 3 things for tonight. Technical knowledge, how to do the contracting, the market, and how you match up your goods and services to the government agency's needs. And then the 3rd thing that we counsel and train on is access. Entry points, relationships, meeting the government purchasers face to face. The same golden rules that guide you in business apply to doing business with federal and state agencies as well. They're not a whole different kind of customer, they're just a customer. And once you get working with these folks, you will see that. So let's talk about some of these. At the state level, states and local government businesses differ from the federal in several ways. Kind of like the way that your federal tax returns are different from doing your state taxes. The state ones tend to be easier. The state of Wisconsin has both construction and conservation opportunities. And at the smaller level, the county and city governments, they are often looking for services that they used to do themselves, but as governments get smaller in a lot of cases, they now want to farm those out. Now let's take a look at the federal. The United States government is the largest single customer for most of goods and services in the world. And thanks to the SBA, small businesses are not only welcome to bid on contracts, but they receive preferential treatment in some cases. So whether you're a machine shop in Ashland or a giant military aircraft manufacturer, we all register in SAM the same way. SAM is Uncle Sam, the System for Awards Management. It's where you register, it's where you look at the federal regulations that will apply to you as a federal contractor, and the best part of all, that's the website where you get paid. You put your banking information in there, and then when you get a check from the government, it gets directly deposited in your account. So we teach you how to register in that system. Okay, if you want to do business with local governments, you got to start with the phone book, I'm afraid. But who has one anymore? So here's some online directories for you. And by the way, don't worry about writing all that down. You'll all be offered access to this presentation following this program. So just some ideas of where you can get listings of various governments and agencies that you might want to do business with. Now the state of Wisconsin is transitioning some of its bids to a different system. The legacy system, or the older system, is known as VendorNet, and VendorNet is still online. But the home page will tell you the things that are still being bid on this page, but they've transitioned some of them to a newer system as well. Now, the State Department of Administration lists the state construction projects on their website. So from the original VendorNet, you can jump to the state's DOA or Department of Administration website and find out what construction projects are out there if you're in the construction business. Now here's the new web page. It's called eSupplier, and there's a link to that from the original VendorNet. Now, like the federal government, the state is required to maintain transparency in its business dealings, where they spent their taxpayer money, who did they award the contract to, how much was the contract, and so on. So you can go online to see who won a particular bid and how much money it's worth. And that, in fact, that should become part of your market research, finding out where the state government and the federal government, for that matter, are spending their dollars, who they're spending them with, and where those contracts are going. They've also got a map style index of the other states as well. So you can, I believe you can click on a state and it'll tell you where the purchasing offices are that you may want to do business with. Around here, you're very close to Michigan. You may want to do business with Michigan, with Minnesota, from this region. Now, Wisconsin is also developing its programs for women-owned, minority-owned, and other types of small business in order to try to level the playing field for some of the historically disputes. This is sort of a state replication of what the SBA does. So in the Department of Administration website, they've got this Division of Enterprise Operations. Some of these require certifications. For example, to be a certified women-owned business, at least 51% of the company has to be owned and controlled by the women leaders of the company. So there's details at this site. There's also live people you can call on the phone and talk to. We've just, down in Camp Douglas, we had a client who was a women-owned business and who has just gotten certified on this website. In fact, we're recommending that company for an award this year. And now, there's a caveat to that. As you know, Wisconsin is a common property state. So how do you get around the common property law versus the 51% ownership? There is a way. I heard the SBDC in La Crosse describe this to a couple who was going into business. So SBDC is a good resource. The SBA is a good resource for how to deal with common property estates. Other states have that situation as well. Now, the Department of Transportation within the state of Wisconsin does their own contracting from their website. So here's a slide that shows those links for state transportation projects, road building and so on. And again, don't worry about the links. I will make sure that you have a way to get the whole of all these slides. Now, as we said, the federal government buys a lot of stuff. $500 billion. That's a lot of stuff. That's purchasing goods and services. That's not all the money the government spends, but it's what they spend on goods and services. For example, think of what it takes just to keep the Navy running from day to day. And the government has to buy American, and most agencies have goals to buy from small businesses. Now, the thing that bugs me about this slide is that Wisconsin businesses only got 0.7% of the whole pork barrel in 2017. I think we can do better than that. But we have to do it from our level, the ground level. Us as businesses have to want to do business with our own governments to whom we pay their taxes. It'd be nice if you could, look at your tax bill for the end of the year and then realize because you also have the federal government as a customer, you got it all back. Through doing business with them, same with the state. It's kind of a nice way to pay no taxes. You come out ahead anyway. So compared to other states, the darker green states on this map had the most federal sales last year. I guess we're not too surprised about Virginia because they're close to DC and they've got a lot of defense industry in Virginia. That must be true also of California and Texas. You see, Wisconsin, we're not the lightest color, but I think we can do better. So, of all this money, how much of this was spent here in Ashland County, Bayfield County, and Sawyer County? Well, you can find that out. You can look that up. One of the best websites to research the federal spending is usaspending.gov. This website is pure genius. It's a contract nerd's paradise. It's where you can do a lot of market research on what the government's spending on in your area. So I searched for all the spending in Ashland County for the year 2018, and I started up with a pretty big Excel spreadsheet and then distilled it down to these 4 columns. You can do this yourself and sort the data any way you want. So these are some of the contracts that have been done in this area and what they're buying. See the total down at the bottom? Like I say, I filtered out a few things. But what's showing on the screen came up to $664,000 just for Ashland County. Bayfield. $4,452,647.
4 million?
4 million. Is that how you say that? It's not 4,452,000? Okay. 4 million, $4.4 million in Bayfield County. You can find out actually who in this area got those contracts if you use this site. So this is a great tool. Sawyer County. A little smaller, but tomorrow night we're having the same conference down in Winter, Wisconsin. Very small town. And what I get a kick out of is, there's Winter. Somebody in the very small town of Winter, Wisconsin had a $3,000 contract with the Bureau of Prisons, doing administrative management. So it doesn't matter how small a town you're in or how small a business you have, you can get a contract with the federal government. In Wisconsin, the state of Wisconsin, let's look at some of the big ones. Oshkosh Truck is the largest and the only one that usually has over $1 billion in orders. This state really contributes to the national defense. Right now, Wisconsin builds Army trucks, almost all of them, and some Navy ships. That's really cool for a state that's nowhere near the ocean. During World War II, by the way, there was a fellow down in Manitowoc who built barges. And in 1943, I believe it was, he called the Navy and said, you know, I think I can build you some of those submarines. And they said, okay, build us a prototype. And he did, and he had to figure out how to bend the metal around something to make the submarine hull. It was nothing like building a barge. And he came up with the genius idea of making the submarine out of wood. And then he bent the metal around the wood to make the hull. And the Navy was so impressed, they ordered 29 submarines from this gentleman. There's a great book, you can probably get it in the library, it's called Freshwater Submarines, and it's about the Manitowoc submarine building in World War II. Now, I'm 57 years old, and I like to be able to say that the best way to do business isn't always online. Online has a lot of great characteristics to it. But there's nothing like the face-to-face meeting. And one of the best things that we do at WPI is to make introductions between businesses and government buyers. We do this at Oakfield and Fort McCoy every summer, Wisconsin Dells in the fall with state agencies. And the biggest event is coming up next month, and I'm going to talk about that in a few minutes. But we can help introduce you to all these people. We can also coach you on what to have in your hands and what to say when you get these opportunities. Things like your government business cards, capability statements, a one-page summary of your business geared toward government buyers, and maybe an elevator speech. If you only have 10 minutes to meet with them, how do you use that 10 minutes? How do you best use that time? Early on, I mentioned technical assistance. After all, WPI is the Procurement Technical Assistance Center, or PTAC, for the state of Wisconsin. Now, registering in SAM is a lot like the first time you do long-form IRS tax returns. You remember the first time you did a tax return, a 1040, a real 1040, the whole shebang. I tried that once. It took me 40 hours. And after that, it got a lot easier. But you always got to do it the first time. So we are here to coach you, to help you learn how to do that SAM registration. It's online, but it is long. And there's a lot of federal regulations that are referenced in there. Some of them look pretty scary, like the anti-kickback law. Now some of these regulations are required because of our long and illustrious history in the United States of contract fraud, which actually started before the United States did. General Washington, commanding the Continental Army, was defrauded by his suppliers. Then the worst of all is because we were having a revolution and we're fighting the British had the courts. So Washington couldn't even sue these guys to get his money back until we created the Constitution and the court system and so on. But registering in SAM, so a lot of those regulations are there to protect the taxpayer's interest against fraud. I took a 6-month training course in Federal Acquisition Regulations, the FAR clauses. This is 52 chapters of federal law that deal specifically with doing business with the federal government, and got a certification in that. So that helps me help you navigate your way through what those laws mean. But we can coach you, and by the way, everything we do is for free. Now, you'll get emails from people, and from some legitimate businesses, some not so much, that will offer to do this for you. Especially after you register, they'll be able to look you up in SAM and then say, hey, we can take over your registration and all your problems will go away, and it's only $300 a year. This is free, and you can have access to WPI counselors and not pay. So, do it for free. During your SAM registration, when you get toward the end, there's a shortcut over to the SBA website. You should take the shortcut because it'll transfer a lot of the information that you just spent time typing into SAM for your federal business, it'll transfer it right over to your SBA registration. And when you do a query in the SBA, in the Dynamic Small Business Search, you get a listing like this. So here we've done a listing for, looks like businesses in Grantsburg, to find out what they do. Now, when you do this registration, you'll be asked to add a few things that weren't in the SAM registration. One of them is, what do they call that? I'm sorry. It's a capabilities narrative, like your capability statement. But you see the ones where folks have put over on the side what it is they do for a living, and then about 2/3 of the way down, they left it blank. There's about 3 or 4 of them that left it blank. Don't leave that blank. When people are looking for someone, when the governments are looking for someone to do this work, they don't want to see it blank there. So you should fill that in. And you should do this because it's free marketing. The SBA directory is the largest such directory of businesses that exists, and it's free marketing. So put your stuff in there. Don't skip that. Now, how do you find the business? Well, the federal government has a big website called fbo.gov. It used to be called fedbizops.gov. fbo.gov. It's the Amazon of the federal government. Most of their contract bids are posted here. Everything from the Army Corps of Engineers to the VA. So you should become an expert at surfing this site because there's $500 billion here. Your odds are way better than the lottery. And if you ask me, once you're in SAM, this should be one of your surfing for work, surfing for business, opportunities, things like that. Now, there's a lot of surfing to be done. You can learn how to narrow it down so you're not looking through the whole thing every day. But the other thing that we can do for you is bid match. If you register with us as a client for free, we have a system that we pay for. We pay for the software, but at no cost to you, called Bid Match. And the software will do some of the searching for you. It will match your business codes to the government's business codes they're looking for and start sending you automated emails. So you don't have to look at everything every day when you're searching for work. It's a good system. Now, once you bid on a contract, you'll be contacted if you win it. But if you hadn't heard anything, you can look up again on usaspending.gov and find out who did win the contract. Earlier we talked about your government business card. We teach you how to do that as well. It's basically like your regular business card, but it adds some codes on there, some government codes. There's a North American Industry Classification Code, the NAICS code. That is a 6-digit code that identifies every type of good or service there is that the government buys. And several systems use that. Well, you can put those codes right on your business card, and it might be that you have commercial business cards for your non-government business, and then another set that you give to government buyers. Same with the capability statement. You know, a lot of folks do a lot of nice, when you go to a printer and you talk to those graphic designers, they'll really sell you on some beautiful brochures, really beautiful brochures and things that you can put together and, use for advertising or to hand out at conferences and things like that. When you talk to a government buyer, they can't take home a whole folder of stuff from every company they talk to. And they just don't have the room to file it. Even as a prime contractor, I didn't have the room to file everything that everybody handed me. So the standard is to make a one-page called a capability statement. Now, that's a fake one over there. The really great construction company doesn't exist, but you should have things on there like your website for the buyers to land on. And once you've met them and they want to do business with you. We talked about federal small business programs. Here are some of the recent set-aside goals and how some of the agencies are doing at meeting them. You see that there's a goal for 5% of prime and subcontracts to go to women-owned small businesses, and so far they haven't met that goal. There's another 3% of prime contracts and subcontracts for hub zones. They haven't yet met those goals as of the time that we produced this slide. So very often, if you're in that category, the government will just be dying for you to make a bid on something because they need to meet those goals by actually writing a contract with those types of set-aside businesses. Now, there's some projects will always be too big for your company. But then you might want to contact the prime contractor, for example, Oshkosh Truck, and offer to sell your goods and services to them, and you would then become a subcontractor. You'd be bound by some, but not all, of the contract requirements. And if you do this, make sure to document your subcontract. It should be on paper. Don't just do this with a handshake. I talked to like a welder in Toma, who I told him, I said, "Are you doing subcontracts anymore?" He used to do subcontracts for me, and we had a written agreement with him. Well, later on, he did one with another company, and it was just on a handshake basis, nothing in writing. And then, unfortunately, they were late in paying him, and he thought he had no recourse. I said, "Yes, you have recourse. Call me, call my office, call the SBA. You know, call the contracting office of the Army or whoever it was that let that prime contract out, but let them know, you know, you don't have to get beat up if you're a small contractor working for a bigger one. It's a misconception that people think, well, there's nothing I can do. There's always something you can do. Okay. Last words of advice. You need to get out there and schmooze. I think my boss wrote that one. But be patient. You got to be tenacious. And if you're an entrepreneur, you're already patient and tenacious, or you couldn't stand it, right? And be willing to partner with other businesses. By the way, a word about set-asides. Some set-asides are competing contract bids. So let's say it's set aside for a woman-owned small business. 2 women-owned small businesses have to compete, or have to bid on that contract for it to be set aside for the women-owned. So if a period of time goes by and maybe only 1 woman-owned small business bids on it, but it's a competitive contract, there has to be at least 2. But what you do there is you partner with one of your competitors and say, hey, the Army's got this contract at Fort McCoy. I'm going to bid on it. Why don't you bid on it, and then it'll get set aside just for women-owned. Now your chances of getting it awarded are a lot better. If there's only 2 of you, your chances might be 50-50. However, if not enough businesses bid on it, then they have to open it up to everybody, and then your odds are not as good. And one of the last words of advice I would give you is make sure you do that face-to-face meetings. You know, contrary to popular belief, you can't just do all your business from a computer. Computers are just really good adding machines that are strapped to a telephone line with a jukebox and a post office. Okay, they're a little better than that now. But with a little patience and good humor, you can do it. I'll wrap up with some upcoming training events that we have at WPI. I told you about our website. We do those webinars, so go to our website, take a look at the training schedule, maybe tune in to a webinar on a topic that you like or that you need some learning on. They're given by all of us at WPI, plus some of our prime contractors also give some of the webinars. In fact, that's how I got involved with them. I was sponging up all this learning, and then I gave a couple, and then unfortunately I think I attracted attention myself, and they hired me. So that's how I got here. Marketplace. Marketplace, Wisconsin is the biggest event of the type I was talking about. It's in Milwaukee, second week of December. And last year we had 30 state and federal purchasing agencies there, just sitting at tables having one-on-one meetings with people. And there's 2 gentlemen that'll be walking around making introductions. We will greet the small business owners like you, and we will walk them to the tables where these 30 agencies are at. I'm one of them. The other one is my partner, Dave Olson, down at Camp Douglas. So if you go to Marketplace and you want to meet with these folks, we'll sign you up. So we have some preparation for that. We talked about earlier, well, what if I'm not into the marketing stuff so well yet? What if I need to practice? Need to learn how to do the business card, how to do the capability statement, what to say during my 10-minute speech. We're having some training sessions on that around the state. 2 of them are webinars that you can attend from your home or office. The next one is actually the 15th, isn't it? Friday, I think, this week. We have one that's online. And we have 2 more live events. One will be in Appleton, the other one in Wauwatosa. So we've already done 2 of these events, and we have 4 more coming up before Marketplace on December 12th. Okay, this is my contact information, and again, I've got business cards out in front, as well as in our brochures that are out on the front table. By the way, if you haven't signed up, done the sign-in sheet when you came in, please do that. As a reward, if you do the sign-in sheet and consent to be a client of Wisconsin Procurement, you will get this fantastic presentation for free. You will also get access to all of our training presentations for this year on our website. So, and counseling services, all the stuff I talked about that we can help you with, it's all there. So, we invite you to become our clients, and we hope you'll take advantage of all the resources that you learned about here tonight. By the way, we're doing this tomorrow night in Winter, Wisconsin, but that means I've got tomorrow kind of free time. And I could go up to Bayfield and look at the lake, or if any of you want to meet with me tomorrow, I'll be available right here in Ashland. I'm staying at the Quality Inn, I think it is, down the road a mile. And if you'd like to have a meeting, we can set up a meeting, and I can get you started with WPI and talk a little bit more about training and the topics and find out where you're at. Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks a lot. A lot of, like I said, money laying there on the table, ready for you to scoop up, so take advantage of it. It's a lot of great information. Before we bring up the last speaker tonight, I just want to note that Crystal Dunleavy and Crystal Matson of Associated Bank are here, and they're the resource from the Ashland Bank in Ashland, so just wanted to note that. Thanks for coming. And so now we have Andrew Strum. He's from the Indian Head Community Action Agency, and he's going to share his great resources for us. Thanks, Andrew.
Yeah, I'm Andrew Strum. I'm from Indian Head Community Action Agency. I work in the Business Development Program, and essentially I help people start small businesses or grow their existing business. Community action agencies were originally founded in 1964 by the Economic Opportunity Act as part of the War on Poverty. Indian Head started in 1966 in Ladysmith, Wisconsin, and started out serving 5 counties in northern Wisconsin. A business development program now serves 12 counties throughout the area here. We provide free technical assistance to entrepreneurs and current business owners. We do business plan development, 3-year financial projections. We help people sign up for limited liability companies, sales and use tax permits, federal employee identification numbers, things like that. We also provide some funding assistance as well. We have a small business revolving loan program. We also have kind of a network of loan providers like CAD, like Impact 7 that we can refer you to. And we basically try to get you bank ready as well. So when you go to banks and private lenders, you will have your business plan ready, you'll have your financial projections ready, you can walk in there with the confidence it takes to get a loan for yourself. We also provide marketing assistance for free. We can do website design, business card designs, flyers. We do some MailChimp training, and we also help people with social media campaigns to make sure that they're utilizing that free tool as well. And that's about it for me. Just a quick once over on the business plan. Here's my information. I also have some business cards in the back there and some brochures back by the coffee and cookies, so feel free to help yourself with that.
So does anyone have any questions about what you've heard tonight? Again, I want to thank everyone for coming out tonight to share and be a resource and a guide. And certainly, we don't go away when the presentation ends. We're all
Short and sweet, but a lot of punch, eh, Andrew? There you go. Well, this is the time when there should be a lot of questions and there should be a lot of answers. So, for all of those who shared their resources tonight, perhaps just come forward and audience lay it on them.
While you are thinking about a good question to ask, I do want to do a public service announcement that Patty also brought up a little bit with microlending and access to working capital. And John also alluded to it a little bit with online lending. There's a lot of online lenders out there who are basically sharks. They're high interest, high factoring loan programs that look like a good deal on paper. They'll either match your receivables or your invoices, give you a cash advance, and it's just a debt cycle that you'll never get out of. So before you sign up for one of those, they make it really easy to sign up and they keep you underwater forever. So before you sign up for something like that, contact one of us up here to see if there's an alternative before you ever decide to get into a high factoring loan. I've helped 3 or 4 this year get out of those. I'm sure Kate's probably come across a couple, or you will eventually. John, I'm sure you've talked to a couple people who may have ended up in that situation. So there's resources available. Don't get in those high interest, high factoring loans. If you have a question, contact one of us and we'll tell you if it's legit or not.
You know, the tie-in here, I think, with all of us, is that we're all here basically for the same thing. And, you know, I brought up the spectrum of the loan decision as far as approval versus not being approved. And I brought up that the middle of the road is where most of the requests come in. And what we're all here, what we'll look to do is partner with each other and try to come up with some financing option that works for us, where we can maybe participate in the risk, but it also works on the other side of the desk as well. So, you know, a lot of these things we don't go into alone. We partner.
On the same subject of what Ken had brought up, also you hear a lot of things, a lot of advertisements for grants to start a business. Don't get pulled into those either. I went to one of those classes just to see what it was all about. By the end of the night, they wanted $750 for you to sign up with them for their services, and they were guaranteeing you a grant of some sort. But it's not necessarily for starting a small business. There are no grants for starting a small business that we're aware of. Believe me, if I knew about it, I would use one. Because my husband also has a small business, actually, in the same line of work as your dad. So please just be aware of those scams, because they are out there and they really sound like they're the best thing on earth, but they're really not.
I think you guys had a question on that side of the room.
We have a question.
Mine really isn't a question, I just want to comment that my husband and I, this tonight was so great because we came and what you started out saying of being in the community, of being visible and among that happened to us 27 years ago. And without our local lender and without, at that time, we had first gone to, which was called the Bayfield County Revolving Loan. Then we went to Spooner. And so, sitting here tonight and hearing all of this, I just have to say thank you. Because it wasn't so easily out there back then, you know, you had to kind of dig a while. So this has really been very informative and just so great, so thank you.
Thank you. You know, I think that as a community banker, one of the most rewarding parts of our jobs is when we help someone succeed. And when we continue to live in that community and walk by that business and know we had a part in it, that's real rewarding. So,
It doesn't always happen that way.
no, it
What
doesn't.
happened with my husband and I is we started all with our local, and all of a sudden our local guy who was not only a personal friend but our banker, he left. So the new person came in and it was like, I mean, we were set ready to go and he was like, I really don't know if this is, and we were like, you're kidding. So it is true, it doesn't always happen when you think it's going to, but with.
For community bankers, it's about forming relationships.
Yes, thank you, and it is, so thank you so much.
Any other questions?
Did you have a question? I thought I saw you raising your hand.
Are you looking at me?
Yes.
Well, we're just coming at this from a totally different angle, and maybe this was not exactly the place for us to be tonight, but we're interested in, like, if there's a particular business, for example, a small farm that's doing something that we really believe in, if we want to lend money for that as private citizens, how do we go about doing that? And maybe that's something that we would talk to you at another time. But, I mean, if you want to say something about it, that's fine too.
That's a new one for me, so I wouldn't have anything to comment on as far as my experience in that situation. So definitely, I think that would be a good thing to research and look into together, maybe on a one-on-one meeting.
I have a connection for you on that I could talk to you about later.
Okay, great.
Yeah, because there's a lot of angel investor type of organizations around the state that you might want to connect with.
I missed a word. What kind?
Angel investor?
Oh.
Scotty, do you want to wrap this up?
Tie a bow around you? Well, thanks. There wasn't a volume of folks here, but you were very attentive, and we appreciate you being here tonight, and glad for the comments, that it was very valuable. So thanks to everyone for your time, for your expertise. Good evening.